this is the most important fight of my life.
If you don't win, is this it?
I can't afford any mistakes, I can't afford any slip-ups.
I think any son would be angry with the father saying that in private, let alone in public.
I got away with nothing. Looking back on it, you know, what would I have been like if I hadn't had that discipline?
Would you call it abuse if he was hitting you physically? You mentioned the passing of your brother Sebastian, which is an unimaginable life event. Are you a different person now since that happened? We're here to interview Chris Eubank Jr ahead of his big rematch against Liam Smith. Chris lost in that first fight, his third loss in 35 fights that he's had, and he's had a very interesting life, following in the footsteps of an incredibly famous father, one who achieved great things in the sport. So I'm really interested to sit down with Chris and just understand where his head's at before he goes into this really important moment in his life. Chris, so we're about to embark upon a huge pay-per-view fight, your rematch against Liam Smith, and I've been speaking to your team in the last couple of weeks. Where would you like to begin today? What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? I'm getting in that ring and avenging the loss. You know, there's a lot of other things that are going on in my life, but you know, during a fight camp, especially this close, is kind of you've got to block it out. You've got to try to anyway. You know, any distractions, anything that kind of gets in the way of focus is detrimental, and you get better and better at that over time. Right now, yeah, I'm just in fight mode. During fight camp, so that I can give my all, you know, and be 100% on the night. You can't be 100% on the night of a fight if you're going out with your mates, if you're drinking, if you're having sex, if you're traveling, if you're trying to run a business. You've got to be all in. You know, if you want to be able to give yourself the best chance at performing how you want to perform on the night.
It's not the first time that you've lost, but did that last defeat hit you harder than the previous ones?
Every defeat, it hits, but did it hit harder? I wouldn't say so, because it was, you know, it wasn't like I got battered for 4 rounds and then knocked out. I was winning the fight, I made a mistake, and I paid the price. So, you know, when I got out of that ring, it wasn't depression or, you know, upset. It was annoyance. I was pissed off. Wow, you know, how can I let this happen? I know I could beat this guy. Yeah. So yeah, it was a different type of sting, you know. But that's boxing. You've got to take your licks when they're there, and have the ability to come back stronger, tougher, more resilient, improved. You got to learn from your mistakes.
How did you let it happen?
I think I got complacent. You know, I was very comfortable in that ring, probably more so than I usually am in fights in general. I was very comfortable. I was very relaxed. You know, he wasn't catching me with shots. In the third round, I hit him with some great combinations, and you know, I was just fully in control. And I guess I went back to the corner after the third, and I was like, this is in the bag. I got this.
You were thinking that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way.
Do you normally think that in a fight? Because you come across as confident anyway.
You have to have confidence, but you know, as a veteran, you can gauge your ability, especially after being in the ring for a few rounds with another man. So you know whether it's going to be a hard night or whether you've got it. And I believed after that third round, I was like, I've got this. This is where I'm going to start taking off. And that kind of, I'm not going to call it a false sense of security, but that relaxed attitude, oh, there's no danger in front of me, caused me to, you know, let my guard down for a split second, literally. And, you know, my opponent capitalized on that split second mistake, and now we're here, about to you know, settle the score in a rematch. When you pull up to school in a 2-ton Peterbilt truck, and a man with a monocle and a cane jumps out and he's honking the horn, when you put that kid in that type of environment, he's going to become a target.
Taking you back sort of through your life, you've always been judged by the ability of another person, namely your father, which I think is obviously harsh. I was on a train 10 years ago, going back from London to Manchester. First class, 2 on one side, 4 on the other. And there were a group of gentlemen sat further down in the fore, didn't know who they were at the time. And all of a sudden there's a laptop opens and it's a boxing match. And I recognise it's your dad, Chris Eubank, versus Nigel Benn. And you're sat next to him. And he was shadow boxing and he was talking to you and at you, I think I would say, probably in some ways. He was talking at you.
Sounds like my old man, yeah.
And I wondered at the time, is that mentoring or is that pressure? Or what is it?
I guess it's both. I mean, in his way, yeah, it's mentoring. That would have been, you know, kind of towards the beginning of my professional career.
Yeah, you were young, definitely, at the time.
My old man was, you know, heavily a part of that time in my career. And, yeah, boxing, you know, with him, he could never separate being a dad from being a coach or an advisor or a mentor. It was always boxing, 24/7, even on the train. You know, did that add pressure? Absolutely. But the pressure that he was putting on me, it prepared me for the pressures that the public put on me from day one.
Yeah.
You know, from my first fight on Channel 5, 2 million viewers, and, you know, the commentators are comparing me to a legendary world champion in my father, in my first fight. You can't get any more pressure than that. Mm. So, you know, the things that my dad did, said, how he brought me up, yeah, it prepared me for the journey that I had to make to becoming my own man in the sport of boxing.
You've talked previously about the word fear, and I always say that I had fear in my football career of Sir Alex Ferguson. I thought it was a healthy fear that made me stronger, that helped me, because there was that respect. Do you feel as though the fear that you had with your father was a healthy fear, or do you think there were elements of it that were unhealthy for you?
I don't know if I would say unhealthy. I mean, he was extremely strict. I got away with nothing. If I messed up in school, if I didn't do a chore, if I got into a fight with my brothers, yeah, there was physical punishment, whether it was a belt, whether it was a cane, whether it was, you know, a slap. Back then, you know, in the 90s, that was how you disciplined your kids. So that is where my fear obviously originated from, having to deal with that. But again, you know, that type of punishment and that type of upbringing, that type of strictness, it made me who I am today. It prepared me for the brutality of the sport of boxing.
Would you call it abuse if he was hitting you physically all the time?
Absolutely not. In my opinion, that's a good question, because some people will hear, oh, you know, he got beat with a belt or canes, and that's 100% abuse. But in my opinion, abuse is unwarranted. Abuse is somebody doing something for no reason. Abuse is, you know, a parent coming home drunk and taking their angers out on their kids. That was never the case with me. I got punished when I stepped out of line, when I got into fights, when I messed up at school. You know, he was teaching me that for everything you do, there are consequences, good and bad. You know, when I did good things, he rewarded me immensely. And when I did bad things, he punished me. Life lessons, not abuse at all. You know, I was still such a bad kid. I was a tearaway. I was in a gang. I was getting into fights. You know, at 11 years old, I went and I spent 2 hours breaking into a sweet shop with my mates and emptied the place. Left the cash register, but filled up bin bags with Cornettos and
That'd be me.
Cokes and Snickers bars. You know, as a kid, you're not thinking about money. You think, I just want the sweets.
Yeah.
Just doing, you know, I've got a million stories like that. And I was doing that knowing that if I got caught, when I got home, I was in serious shit. Excuse my French. So, you know, I look at it as, imagine if there were no consequences for what I did. Imagine if I had a parent that was like, oh, you know, come on, son, just take a time out. I was already a wild man. I would have been, you know, I would have been off the rails. I remember, you know, I'd get into a fight at school or something, and I knew the school was going to call my dad afterwards and tell my mum, and my mum would tell my dad. So I would prepare. So I would go into my gym bag, you know, as a kid, and I would put like layers of shorts and pants and socks, tuck them into my boxers, because I knew as soon as I got home, I'm getting my ass kicked. And then one time, you know, that worked for a while, and I had to pretend it was hurting. You know, when really it was actually, I couldn't really feel anything, which was great. And I did that for a little while, and then one time, you know, I'm rolling around on the floor and a sock falls out of my boxers. And he's like, what the hell is this? And then he, you know, he lifts it up and he sees all this stuff. He's like, this is what you've been doing. That was a bad day. But, you know, obviously at the time it's scary and you hate it and you oh, God, I hate my old man. Looking back on it, you know, what would I have been like if I hadn't had that discipline? Because I was still in the gangs. I was still, you know, there's videos of me now on YouTube as a kid in the street fights, and I was doing that every week. Yeah. You know, what would I...
you like fighting then, or because you were ill-disciplined?
Both.
Both.
I just had it in me. I had that fire in me, you know. I had that fire in me. I wanted to prove myself. Chris Eubank son, he thinks he's tough. Yeah, I am tough. Say something, let's go.
So even back then as a kid, you were being judged about the fact that your father was up to...
all the time. All the time tested, all the time poked and prodded by kids. Let's see what he's got. Yeah. That's how it was, you know. You know, when you pull up to school in a 2-ton Peterbilt truck with a man with a monocle and a jacket and a cane jumps out and he's honking the horn, and you've got to step down the stairs and go into the school. When you put that kid in that type of environment, he's going to become a target. Yeah. Did I benefit from that type of stuff? Sure. Yeah, there were kids that loved that, and you know, oh, I want to be mates with him, and you know, but there were in girls. Oh yeah, you know, I want to be his girlfriend. But you've also got the flip side. Look at this flash bastard. Let's show him something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you know, I dealt with the good and I dealt with the bad. But the upbringing, you know, being in that spotlight, being in that, you know, tough upbringing, it made me who I am today. Would I be able to go and fight people in front of 20,000 people, you know, millions of people on TV? Would I be able to go through all that if I was just left to do anything I wanted to do as a kid with no consequences, with no punishment? Would I have the resolve and the discipline to stay in the gym each and every day if I was just, you do what you want, son? Yeah. No. You know, you have to, I had to go through hardship as a kid to understand what hardship really is and then to be able to deal with that as an adult. You know, it hardened me. You know, now I can walk into arenas with 20,000 people booing me and hating me and wanting me to lose. I've done it before. And I can do it with a smile on my face, and it doesn't affect my performance. Yeah. There are very few people that can walk that path. My father, his upbringing enabled me to embrace, you know, able to deal with that type of pressure. So I love him for that. Yeah.
He no longer trains you. When was the last time you spoke to him?
We speak, you know, we text. You know, he's a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. You know, I've been in America for the last 4 months. You know, and we have, you know, we've not grown apart, but, you know, he's taken a step back in my career over the years. You know, as you grow into a man, you start to want to do things your own way. You start understanding your environment, being comfortable, speaking on your own. You know, so I didn't need this huge character next to me 24/7 like I did at the beginning when I was coming in and I didn't really know I didn't know how to talk to media. I didn't really want to talk to, you know, journalists and interviews and all that. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to prove myself. So my dad kind of took that pressure off me. Well, he took it off me, but he also added a huge amount of pressure with the things that he would say, but he was talking. So I could just kind of fight. Obviously, as you get older, as you get more comfortable, as you get more successful, then you know, all right, let me have my say now. So I didn't need that huge character next to me. You know, I love my dad. We're close, and we still, you know, I still incorporate all the things he taught me as a kid and as a teenager, and even now, I still listen and I still incorporate the things he says. You know, I appreciate his upbringing.
He says you don't listen, though.
Well, you know, we're at a very we're in a very specific time period right now where there's things going on that maybe he doesn't agree with. You know, he doesn't want me to fight Conor Benn. He's against that.
Yeah. He called it attempted murder.
With me having to cut that weight.
Yeah.
A little bit dramatic, but again, you know, he lost a son. I lost a brother. So if you're going to look at it in that sense, it's not dramatic at all. It's a very dangerous sport, and if you're going in there a weight drained with weight clauses, rehydration clauses, then it is a cause for concern for a father, and I completely understand that. But you know, that type of fight is, you know, it's a once in a generation type of fight. So I said I wanted to do it, and I want to take that fight, and I will take that fight. He doesn't want me to take it. So, you know, things like that is why he will tell people he's not listening to me. But, you know, of course I listen to him, but I also have to be my own man and make my own decisions. At the end of the day, when my career is said and done, I have to look back at that, what I've done, and, you know, and be comfortable with it and be happy with it. I don't want to look back and say, oh, imagine if I had that. Imagine if I did that. Imagine if I fought him. I don't want to look back and say, oh, well, my dad didn't want me to do it, so I didn't fight him. You can't live like that. Or you can, but then you're gonna have regret, and you know, you're gonna have maybe ill feelings towards people because of, you know, the influence they had on you. So yeah, you know, in general, I listen to my father. He's extremely wise. He's been there, he's done it. But obviously it comes to a point where you have to be there and do it yourself. And that's what I'm doing now.
Are you a different person now since that happened?
You know, you lose a part of yourself when somebody that close to you passes. You're never the same.
You're so respectful of him. You speak about him with great honour, but you will have probably seen and heard some of the things that he said of you in the last, you know, few interviews that he's done. He's unleashed on you a couple of times, quite harsh words. I'd say not quite harsh words, I'd say very harsh words. How do you keep so sort of articulate around it when he is speaking about you in such a negative fashion? You know, the word charlatan was sort of put to him and he said, well, the silence says it all. I mean, That must really hurt when you speak of him with such love and affection. Where's that come from in him?
You know, I honestly haven't seen these interviews. I did see that clip that you just mentioned, but that's the only thing I've really seen. You know, being called a charlatan is, you know, it's very mild. You know, I've been
That's
called,
mild from your father.
No, not from my father, and I don't. From what I saw, he didn't call me that. He kind of just, whoever said it, he let them say it. You know, my father always told me, no publicity is bad publicity. He knows what he's doing. We're talking about it now.
So you think it's a game still for him in terms of sort of playing the public, the PR? You think that's a PR?
You're talking about it now, aren't you?
Yeah.
If he had said, oh, my son's great and he's going to do well, no one would say anything. When someone calls me a charlatan and he stays silent, that's news. Wow, what's going on here? I haven't spoken to him about it, so I can't.
So you wouldn't get angry with him about that and say, what the hell are you playing at, Dad?
Am I angry about it?
You've a right to be, I think. I think any son would be angry with the father saying that in private, let alone in public.
I understand emotions. I understand who my father is as a man. He's been through a lot over the last 2 years. You know, the things that have happened in the family, it's affected him. So I have to take these things into consideration when he's speaking to the media. You know, it's tough dealing with you know, a death in the family. Everyone deals with it in their own way. Some deal with it bad, some deal with it, you know, as good as they can. He needs to just deal with what he's dealing with. You know, and people taking advantage of his mental state right now, you know, I think it's poor, you know. But these guys don't care about him. You know, they want the headlines. They want the lines. I can't stop him from talking to people. But yeah, anyone who's lost a son and who is so, you know, clearly devastated by that, you know, I think it's irresponsible to be putting them on a platform. But people don't have morals these days. You know, people are scumbags. People are looking for any way to just, you know, get a leg up by any means necessary. It doesn't matter who they hurt. Doesn't matter who's affected. I'm not one of those people. And that's, again, I give that to my father and his upbringing. You know, I turned out to be a good person. I'm not a bully. I'm not a scumbag. I don't take advantage of people. So nobody can say that the way he brought me up was wrong, because look how I turned out. My brother was an amazing man before he passed. A people's man. You know, he would travel to Sudan and Africa and all these different places and help people who had nothing. And he dealt with the same upbringing, the same punishments as me. Yeah. And he was a great man.
You mentioned obviously the passing of your brother Sebastian, which is an unimaginable life event. And are you a different person now since that happened?
For sure. Yeah, you know, you lose a part of yourself when somebody that close to you passes. You're never the same. You know, you have to deal with things internally that you never dreamed you would have to do, and you know you learn about yourself. You can't be the same. 2.5 years ago, before my brother passed, I never thought about death. Just never, you know. Listen, I'm gonna live to 150. We're all gonna die old in our beds in our sleep. It didn't register. Death. What's that? You know, it's movies. People, you know. Now it's like, you know, it just is so real. It makes you appreciate life so much more. It makes you appreciate your family and the people around you so much more, because you know, in a split second they can be gone forever, and you never get that back. So yeah, you know, it changes you for sure. And now, you know, now it's all about making him proud.
Do you think about him every day?
Every day. Every single day. Every single day I say, I love you, brother. He'll pop into my head and I'll say, I love you, brother. Every single day. He actually had 1111 tattooed on his chest. It was a number that he always used to say. He used to see it all the time. And I was like, what's he talking about? It's weird. And now I see it all the time. All the time. I'll look on my phone and say it'll be 1111, or there'll be 11 somewhere. And every time I see that, I say, I love you, brother. I know he's watching.
We always see you in the build-up to fights, and there's very little to laugh about in boxing because it's a brutal sport. You've mentioned that, but I saw a video the other day of you with Sebastian's son Raheem, and you were laughing. How special is that boy to you?
You know, being around Raheem, I mean, I thank God every day that Sebastian had him before he passed, because, you know, without Raheem, he kind of takes, the pain is always there, but it goes away when you're with him, because it's like you're with Seb. He looks like him, and, you know, he is him. So you're at peace knowing that, you know, Seb is still with us through his son. And it makes me want to, I didn't really think about kids for a long time, but, you know, since spending all the time I have with Raheem, I want to give him a brother. I want him to have the relationship like I had with Seb, coming up together. That would make me very happy. So that's, you know, one of the reasons why I'm thinking about, you know, having kids in the not too distant future.
So you just talked to us there about obviously your brother and what's happened in your family in the last 2 years, and what your dad has had to obviously cope with as well. But we never really hear about what your mum's thinking, and your mother, and the influence of your mother to start with on your life.
Huge. My mother is an amazing woman. Kind, smart. You know, she was the one who would, you know, my father was the strict one. My mother was the one that let me get away with stuff. You know, and thank God, you know, I needed a bit of balance, you know. Still very close, you know. I've never been a mummy's boy, but, you know, growing up, she was, you know, a huge part of my life. And a lot of the traits I have now as an adult come from her. How I think, how I, you know, act, how I treat people, how I act towards people. A lot of that comes from her. I mean, it's a mix, you know. Obviously, I learned a lot from my father too, but my temperament.
You're more aligned with how she is as a character?
I think so. I mean, my father's influenced me a lot, but naturally I'm more like her, calm, kind of more on the quiet side, not so extroverted, just, you know, straight to business.
Does she ever get involved in the dynamic between you and your father in respect of, say, for instance, differences of opinions or what's being said publicly? No. You know, she's remarried now to a good man. And, you know, that's her life now. So she doesn't, you know, and I'm a grown man, so she can't come between me and the huge character which is my father. You know, they live different lives now. Still, you know, relationship is good,
You know, there was no, and thank God, you know, because obviously when parents separate, sometimes it becomes ugly. It was never like that with my father and my mother. They were always still friends. They were always still working together to help us as their kids. But yeah, great woman. And I mean, I'm very grateful for how she brought me up. You know, she taught me a lot. And you can still see it. Like, if you know her, you can see her in me.
Is it a now or never fight for you?
It really is.
If you don't win, is this it?
I can't afford any mistakes. I can't afford any slip-ups. This is the most important fight of my life.
Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying this episode. This is just a quick thank you to Sky Bet, our partners, for making this show happen. It's something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. Please subscribe, there's loads more episodes coming up, and I hope you're enjoying it.
You've had 35 fights and you've won the majority of them. You must be proud of your career so far. I know you've not retired yet, but do you look back upon it and think how well you've done? Because there are hundreds of thousands of girls and boys all over the country and the world who probably want to be professional boxers and don't make it. But where you are is some going, really, isn't it? And I say that in reflection of how you do get judged.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the odds were so heavily stacked against me.
Yeah.
Coming into the sport. You know, even my old man, no, you're not going to box.
Yeah, he didn't want you to box, did he?
Play football, play rugby, play cricket, become a doctor. You know, you go to private school, you're smart, you got decent grades.
Were you good at football? Were you good at football?
I was all right, yeah.
You could earn good money playing football and you don't get punched either.
No, that's the thing. Listen, my life would have been a hell of a lot easier if I had taken that path. And I really do believe that any sport that I kind of put my full mental and physical efforts into, I could have made it. You know, I won like schoolboy badminton championships when I was, you know, I was swimming and running track for my county. You know, it was just, and this was all at the same time.
As Nick in Sweets.
As Nick in Sweets, yeah. So, you know, and obviously once I found boxing, I cut all of that out and I focused on the boxing, and that's where I started to excel. But, you know, if I had decided to excel in another sport, I know I would have made it, because I'm just that hell-bent. I'm that driven. But you know, as soon as I stepped into that ring, it was like a drug. It was like you know, it's the purest form of competition, and it's what I'd been searching for. And I was, you know, I was somewhat of a loner. You know, I had friends, but you know, I was alone in a lot of the things I did. So it just suited me. That boxing lifestyle suited me. I walk into the gym with my boxing boots already on. I wrap up and I get to work.
You've been getting to work now. You've been in Vegas for 4 months, which is a different camp than the last time that you fought Liam Smith. How have you trained differently, and how have you sort of set your mind differently than last time?
Roy Jones was training me for the Smith 1 fight. When the original rematch was set for, I think, June or July, Roy was in Vegas with me for a week, and he was going to train me for that fight. Then Liam pulled out, and the fight got pushed back. And then when it got rescheduled, at that moment in time, Roy couldn't do it. He said, "Listen, I've made other promises. I have obligations to other fighters. I can't train you for this fight."
Did you feel let down then, or?
Yeah.
You would, wouldn't you? I mean, if your trainer says you're not going to turn up for a big fight, then...
For sure. But what can you do? I'm not gonna beg. I'm not gonna cry about it. You know, you've said what you've said. I understand, and you know, now I've got to adjust. Now I've got to do what I need to do to prepare for the fight. I have to find a new team.
Yeah.
Who can we find? Who is who is proven, who is available. Oh, there's Bomac. He's in town. Terence Crawford's fighting Errol Spence. It's a huge fight. Talk to him. Maybe he'll train you for his fight. And sure enough, yeah, he said, listen, I've got to get through this fight with Terence. On the weekend after that, I'll be with you the next day. If you want to seriously get down to work, I'll take this journey with you.
How's it changed, this camp, in terms of work? I mean, I'm not a boxing expert by any stretch of the imagination, but for people who are boxing experts that are listening, or people who box, what would he have done differently with you?
Well, you have, every trainer has his different style, his different methods, his different ways of teaching. Bomac is definitely has his own way of talking to you, of training you. What's interesting about him is he has a team. He comes with other people.
Okay.
There's two other pad guys. There's a strength and conditioning coach. There's kind of an infrastructure. With Roy, it was just Roy.
Okay.
So that's different. I'm involved with a lot more people now. I'm training in the mornings now. A lot of people probably find this hard to believe, but
you're not a morning person then, no?
For Jesus, I don't know, the last 5 years maybe, I never did morning workouts.
When you say morning, what time's that?
So now I'm getting up at like 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And we're doing strength and conditioning or runs, and then I'll do the boxing workouts in the afternoons, like 4 or 5 o'clock. Whereas before, for the last 5 years, 6 years, I would wake up at like afternoon, 1, 2, go straight to the gym. Then I'd come back, rest, eat, and then I do my strength and conditioning on my runs at night.
Right.
That's just how I did things.
Do you feel better for it, doing it this way?
I like it. I like it.
I'm a morning person, you see. Get up early, get it done.
Yeah, I've never been that guy. Sleep through the day, wake up, train, and then do that. I could get away with that. I can't get away with that now because I have to be up at 8 a.m. But yeah, it's it's a different regime. But I wasn't gonna say to them, no, listen, I've been training like this for 5 years and that's just how I do things. If I'm gonna take on a new team, I'm gonna listen.
You'll buy into it.
I'm gonna follow the direction. You always talk. People always saying, "Oh, Eubank doesn't listen to his trainers and he's so hard to work with." It's not true at all. If I'm gonna say you're my coach, then I'm gonna listen to you. If you tell me to get up in the morning, I'm gonna get up in the morning. And I'm comfortable with listening to these guys because of what they've done with one of the pound-for-pound greats in the sport right now in Terence Crawford. So I know the things they're telling me, it's not, oh, I think this is going to work, or, oh, well, it's proven. You got one of the best in the world doing it. So I can't argue.
You're up against a angry Liverpudlian, which, to be fair, I work with the angry Liverpudlian week in, week out on television. He's been around the block, he's got a lot of experience, obviously you know him well. Would you have a message for him of where you're at now compared to where you were with the previous fight? What one message would you send him?
It's not about where I am compared to where I was, it's the mindset. This is do or die.
Is it a now or never fight for you?
It really is.
If you don't win, is this it?
No, I'm not gonna even put that in the atmosphere. I'm not gonna put that into the universe. It's unhealthy to talk like that. But that is how I've got to treat this in terms of my mental, in my mental state going into this fight. I have to give this fight everything I've got.
Yeah.
I can't afford any mistakes. I can't afford any slip-ups. This is the most important fight of my life.
The press conference before the last fight brought quite a lot of reaction But how do you reflect upon that now going into this fight?
Yeah, it was spicy. It happens, Sometimes emotions get the better of you, and you say things that you shouldn't say. That's part of the sport. That's why a lot of people tune in. It's been pretty tame in the build up to this fight, but partly because I've been in another country.
Will it ramp up in this next few days?
It's very likely. Tensions get high when it gets close to fight time. That's just how it is. But but at the same time, you got to be responsible with the things you're saying. And a lot of people are not in this day and age. They will say things, they'll do anything or say anything to get attention, to try and sell the fight. I've never been that type of guy.
Did the crowd reaction surprise you last time?
No. I knew it was going to be hostile. I knew it was going to be rough in there.
Was it tough to take? Does it bug you that you get sort of treated in that way on the way into the ring?
Does it bug me? I've been dealing with it for so many years now that it becomes like you become numb to it.
Do you wish it was different though? Do you wish that you were given a warm welcome on the way in?
I wouldn't even say that. Do I wish it? No, I don't. I never sit there and, oh man, I wish these guys would be cheering for me instead of booing me. I wish these guys would want me to win instead of wanting to see me get knocked out. I've never been that guy. I've always been the guy, hey, listen, it is what it is. If you don't like me, I get it. I'm still gonna win. I'm still gonna go out there and do what I need to do to win. I'm still gonna put my all into this fight, regardless of whether you love me or hate me. I've been that guy. Some guys need.
We like a little bit of love though, all of us, don't we?
Of course. Would it be nice to be cheered and praised into an arena every time? For sure. I'm not going to say I wouldn't want that, but I'm comfortable if it's not that. Some guys are not comfortable with that. Some guys would hate to have to go what I go through.
Yeah.
For me, I've turned it into a situation where it actually helps me.
Siege mentality.
I become the monster that they're trying to make me out to be. I become the bad guy. Sometimes you've got to do what you got to do. If you're not going to love me, then that's okay. I'll be the bad guy. As long as I go in there and do what I'm supposed to do. And I've been doing that for years. So, will it change? I don't know. Will the crowd this time around be more welcoming? Probably not. But what can I do? I can't. If you try and change people's minds, if you try and get people to like you, they hate you even more. I'm at a stage now where people love to hate me. They enjoy that. They don't want that. They don't want me to switch up. They want me to be the guy they want to root against. Some people. So I'll be that.
You like that character? Or you just feel it's the character you have to play?
It's not about like or dislike. It is what it is. Again, would it be nice if everyone was cheering for me? Of course, but boxing isn't a nice sport. No. We're not going in there to be nice. We're going in there to take each other's heads off in front of 20,000 people. It gets hairy, it gets rough, it gets horrible in there. So when you're in that environment, I can be a bad guy if I have to be. Even though I'm not. A lot of people like to paint me out to be that. But I know the real bad guys, the real scumbags, the real lowlifes in the sport. That's not me. I'm a stand-up guy compared to most of these guys out there. I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't cut corners. I'm a straight shooter. And the fans that have followed me for years, they know that and they love me for that. So it is what it is.
I saw in an interview that you said you don't do predictions. So my last question to you is, what is your prediction for this fight?
My prediction is that two fighters get into a ring and we put it all on the line because we have to.
You sound like a football manager doing an interview before a game, sitting on
Do
the
I?
fence. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they sit on the fence and don't quite give us
No,
the...
I'm not sitting on the fence. You know, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to stop him. This fight isn't going to go 12 rounds. But two fighters will get into the ring and they will fight for their lives. They will fight for their families. They'll fight for money. They'll fight for legacy. They'll fight for their careers. And it will be spectacular to watch.
Chris, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well done.